For decades now, the United States and Canada have shared one of the closest military partnerships in the world. Together, they protect North American airspace through a Cold War-era agreement known as NORAD. But now that partnership is facing fresh pressure over fighter jets and political tensions. The United States is warning Canada, back away from a major weapons deal and the rules of the alliance could change. The U.S. basically threatening to send fighter jets across the border to Canada. Should Canada backtrack on buying fighter jets from America? And the warning coming from the U.S. ambassador to Canada. He says if Canada cuts back on its planned purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, Washington may be forced to step in and fly more missions over Canadian airspace. That, he says, could mean rewriting parts of the NORAD agreement. Now, this is the latest in the back and forth between the two sides, the U.S. and Canada, over the deal. In fact, the ambassador cautioning that if Canada purchased fewer fighter jets, the U.S. would fill those gaps in security concerns. And that could mean that America would need to purchase more F-35 fighter jets for its own use and use them to intervene in Canadian airspace more frequently, perhaps. Under the current terms of the agreement, the U.S. and Canada can operate in one another's airspace to track or intercept threats. However, the ambassador is now indicating that the U.S. intervention would go even further should the fighter jet deal change, thus requiring new terms to the Cold War-era agreement. He also told CBC News, I'm quoting, NORAD would have to be altered. Just to put this simply, the U.S. is warning Canada, if Canada cannot defend its skies, America will do it, but on its own terms. And the ambassador's comments come months after the Canadian government, remember, indicated it was reviewing the terms of the fighter jet deal after finding the program to be costlier than expected. In 2022, Canada agreed to buy 88 F-35 fighter jets from Lockheed Martin. The deal was meant to modernize Canada's aging air force and keep it closely aligned with the U.S. forces. But the program has run into trouble, to say the least. Last year itself, a government audit found costs had jumped from $19 billion to nearby $28 billion, nearly $28 billion. And that shock pushed Canada to review the deal. And suddenly, what looked like a settled agreement became uncertain. And now Canadian officials are reportedly exploring other options. As per reports, one major option is Sweden's fighter jet. The company behind it has offered to build planes inside Canada, reportedly, promising more than 12,000 jobs. For Canadian leaders, that is an attractive option. And it would mean lower costs, domestic manufacturing of fighter jets, and political support at home. But then for Washington, it's a problem. U.S. officials are saying the F-35 jets are the backbone of Western air power. Designed to work seamlessly with American systems, choosing another jet, they say, would weaken coordination. So much so that the ambassador even called any aircraft that is not an F-35 inferior and less compatible with U.S. forces. So the U.S. is telling Canada, if Canada chooses any other thing, anything other than F-35, it would mean weaker joint defense. And weaker defense means America may step in more directly. And this dispute is unfolding at a rather tense moment in U.S.-Canada ties. Under President Trump, remember, trade disputes, tariff threats have been straining ties. Canada has been hit by levies on key industries, and political trust has also eroded. The tense ties also coming up in the Parliament on Tuesday, with the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, telling the Parliament that relations with Washington are not normal and warned that the old rules of cooperation are breaking down. And just days ago, at the Economic Forum in Davos, Carney went even further. He said America-led global order is facing a rupture. He cautioned smaller countries against blindly complying with powerful allies. And that speech, of course, angered President Trump and reportedly added fuel to an already tense relationship. The question now is this: who controls North American security? Because for decades now, Canada and the U.S. have shared that responsibility almost equally. The agreement allows both countries, remember, to patrol each other's skies and respond jointly to threats. But then if Canada scales back its air force, that changes things. And the fear basically is that the US would gain more influence and Canada would become more dependent. But defense experts are saying this is about more than just jets. It's also about sovereignty. It's about whether Canada can independently protect its territory. And it's about how much leverage Washington actually holds over its closest neighbor. The US ambassador is warning, suggesting that security cooperation may now come with political conditions. Canada insisting it wants both security and economic benefits. So this is no longer just a defense deal, of course. It's become a test, pretty much, of how much independence Canada can actually afford and how much influence the US is willing to exert. The future of North American security may now depend on how the US and Canada deal with this matter. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.